Oh man, let's go, let's go. So we seen the game today. Um, and Lions. I don't know what it was. What's going on right now? Ramirez St. Brown got a wrist problem, but on top of that, they only seem to can get the ball to St. Brown and Jameer Gibbs. Um, Nobody else can get involved. I mean, Raymond makes a play here and there. Um, J-Mo is looking like a bad signing. It's probably looking like they should have traded him. Um, Defense kind of looked pretty pathetic today. They game plan for the man to man, but one thing I like that Calvin did was he played a little bit of zone. Unlike Aaron Glenn, unless we down injured. But right now, this team ain't looking too good. Chicago won today. Green Bay won today over Minnesota. Uh, Minnesota probably won't be a factor. Um, Green Bay will be. Chicago with a weak schedule. Um, they probably, we got one up on them. So we play them at the end of the season. I'm just not really concerned about them. It's more Green Bay, and it's more, even more than Green Bay. Come Thursday, it's more about the Lions. Um, right now, it just people can say, "Oh, do you miss Ben Johnson?" and that. I'm not sure it's per se um, the that. I just think really 97 Coyote or Awakawaki, he's trash. And also Graham Glasgow is trash. I think that's your problem right then and there. You got two trash interior linemen. Um, so I really think that's the problem right now. You can't run the ball really the way you want to run the ball. You're running it off talent. That's the number one thing. They're running off talent. Um, that's it. They running off Jameer Gibbs' talent. Um, um, and that's it. Right now, Jared Goff and that offense, whatever the play calling is going on right now, they only is able to get it's just not looking good. I can't even explain it. Him and hold on real quick. Him and him and nobody else get on point. And defensively, Aiden Hutchinson was a lot of criticism. They was blocking him, double teaming him, you know, giving him a lot of attention. They probably have a great time at practice scheming for pass rushers. Kayvon, Brian Burns, and Abdul Carter. So but Hutch closed the game out with a big sack. But right now, the lack of a pass rush is hurting them. But defensively, eventually, I mean, it's no rush to get Kirby Joseph back. Thomas Harper is playing pretty well. Um, but eventually, you will get Terrion back. Eventually, you get Kirby back. So on the back end, they're going to be a little stronger. At some point, you hope to get Davenport and Pascal back. So defensively, they will continue to get stronger. Right? I just think they came into this game. It's the Giants. We got a big game, short week versus the Green Bay Packers. I just think that was the mentality. But golf is becoming an issue. That's just what it is. You're gonna be down some linemen. You're gonna transition through some linemen. That's a fact. But for him, I mean, look at Jameis Winston. He's not in the top 50% of mobile quarterbacks in the league, but he's a functionable athlete. Jared Goff is just not a functional athlete. If it ain't stepping up in the pocket, he got no lateral movement. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. He has no lateral movement, no improbability, and really that's where your issue lie at, because for Jared Goff, everything has to be perfect, and y'all just think about it in the fact of having a running game. We look at it just as the blocking, but you got to think about it. If you don't run your routes perfectly for Jared Goff, or if you don't get open perfectly Goff, or you don't build that trust with Goff, he's not gonna throw you open. That's a fact. You get with Matt Stafford and Jameis Winston, they gonna give you an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And right now, when the Porter went down, that was it. St. Brown is dropping it allegedly. Rumored is that he may have a wrist injury. Um, and then it's like, okay, we pay J-Mo this money, and right now, Jared Goff can't get any type of rapport to him other than a funky ass over route. It's down the field, short, intermediate. The quarterback is really the main functionable issue with your team, because everything has to be perfect. The blocking has to be perfect. The receivers have to be perfect with his trust. If they're not perfect with his trust, they have to be perfect on the route running. In the reality and in hindsight, Brad Holmes is responsible for some of this too. He's phenomenal, but getting rid of Tim Patrick, the risk and reward, it just didn't make a sense. Tim Patrick was a guy, if they're blitzing and they getting through, it was somebody that Jared Goff trusted to go up and get the ball. You know what I'm saying? There was a trust there. They built an immediate trust. Think about it. Goff and Tim Patrick click fast. They click better than Jameson Williams and Goff ever clicked. So if you wasn't ready to have Isaac Tesla take over wide receiver number 3, then why the fuck did you get rid of Tim Patrick? I don't get it. Even if you was gonna lose Isaac Tesla as a red zone threat, which sometimes they do, it just didn't make any sense. So you get rid of guys like Reynolds. He got a bad name for dropping the ball in the NFC Championship game. But if you go back and look at that play, Jared Goff had to move off the spot. And what happened when Goff moved off the spot? He throw the ball in the dirt. He throw it in the dirt. In that same play, 6'3" Josh Reynolds got a lot of flack for dropping that ball. But once again, had Jared Goff had a little bit of mobility, had he had Jameis Winston mobility, he'd have put that ball right on his numbers. But everybody blamed Josh Reynolds. Everything not going to be perfect. In golf, everything got to be perfect. And, for the most part, that was terrible. Even if they was looking ahead to, and the Packers are not playing well either, even if they was looking ahead to Thursday, it's just to the point where this is going to be a throwaway season. Could they still get hot? If they get hot, it's going to be because of the defense. And I'm going to say this too, and I kind of get into game specifics in a second. Let me say this too. Give John Morton that playbook back. Let me say that once again. Give John Morton that playbook back. John Morton clearly wasn't the problem. Let me say it again. John Morton clearly wasn't the problem. Give him the playbook back. What, Ben Johnson was saying once he left Detroit, y'all can say it was a running joke. It was no offense. No, it was a lot of truth to what he said about Jared Goff. He limited what he can do from an offensive standpoint. He was just so creative, and they had the best center in football. A guy that gave up maybe one sack, his entire college football career. It might not have been no sacks. I can't remember in Arkansas, So, he was privy to, having Jonah Jackson, who was a good guard, and Frank Ragnar was responsible for Zyfer Jackson, Glasgow over the years. He was responsible for them playing well. You could have put damn near almost any guard next to Frank Ragnar. He just was a great center. He got them in the right audibles. He got them in the right pass and run pass protections. He got them in the right position. So now you take that away, and it's like, it's going to be a transition. And then next year, it's going to be another transition. But, they came out with the trick play. And when you 2-9, they was 2-9 coming to this game. We know the Lions had a bunch of bad games. We would pull out these phenomenal plays. We would play loose because we didn't have nothing to play for. So when you play these bad teams down the stretch and you ain't got nothing to play for, well, you won't have nothing to play for. Um, you get these type of games. So down the stretch, you get a lot of these upsets. He said, Morton was still running. Well, they still ran screens today. What are we talking about? They just executed the screens better today. You think they ain't got nothing to do with John Morton? If you can't block, what you gonna do? Teams get aggressive up the field, you throw screens. Once again, when you don't have a quarterback that can buy you a little bit of time with his feet, you know what I'm saying, or just with pocket mobility, it's hard to have those screens execute the way they did. You know, and they going through so many transitions right now. Transitions away from Frank, and remember next year they'll transition to Ratledge as their center. Don't forget that. Then he also transitioning from Montgomery to Gibbs. You know, and people looking at it as, oh, this is the thing we should do. But Montgomery, like Gibbs is like Barry. He gets his in explosive plays. But for the most part, you need those tough, gritty runs. You need them 3, 4, 5, 6 yard runs. That's what we're a defense out. Then Gibbs can really run and don't Montgomery. Giving the ball to Montgomery was smart. I think they gave it to him too much early last year, but keeping him in the mix, it's smart. But it is what it is. Um, you know, Lions. Then they did the trick play. Now I think they scored a touchdown, a field goal. Um, then I think the Lions might have scored a touchdown. Then they scored another touchdown. Yeah, it was up 10-0. Then they scored another touchdown. I mean, it's just to the point where Wan'Dale Robinson was out there looking like prime Marvin Harrison. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about senior, not junior. And that's what it was. Right now, DJ Reed, I didn't expect him to come back perfect. So it's going to take some time. You don't stop and start. So the secondary, when they get Terrion back and Kirby back, yeah, it's, it'll be they had to build some cohesiveness and knock the rust off. But if they, but ultimately, it just seemed like the Lions get theirs when somebody got a chopper to their fucking dome, and this, either it's sink or swim. And when they force to sink or swim and walk the plank, and they force to swim, they swim. You just gotta ask yourself, as a play caller and as an offense, where is your urgency early in the game? Why do you have to get down to find tempo, to find rhythm? Even versus the Giants, why did that have to happen? In the middle, in a week, okay, let's throw it on the floor. What's the issue? You got to ask yourself, let's throw it on the floor. What's the issue? What can we do better? You got a bunch of game footage tape where y'all struggling all year. Y'all scoring points in bunches. How can we score points consistently? How can we pick up first downs consistently? What do we like on third down? What do we like on second and manageable? Maybe we should stop being so aggressive on second and short and second and manageable. Let's just pick the plays up. Maybe we need to get a fullback. So, those are the questions. Maybe go back into last year. What did we do well on third downs? But obviously, Amon-Ra's hurt, and the defense, like I said before, they're starting to fall apart. But it's not because of attrition. It's just because you get new pieces in there. It's a lot of stress on Aiden Hutchinson. Aleem and Neal still playing his way into shape. Al Quid, Muhammad, and all them guys up front. You got to understand. And then another guy, Makai Wingo, who's supposed to help you at defensive tackle and defensive end. You got to get rid of him too. He ain't never healthy. So, there's some questions to be had, as far as how they moving. Some of the guys they bring in here, but defensively, I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing guys come back, knock the rust off, get in shape, and by playoff time, I think you see Aleem McNeil probably playing, if he's healthy, at a high level. I think if you can get Pascal and Davenport back, I think you'll get a push there. If they can at least get a month of football under their belt when they come back, I think that's beautiful. I think Kirby Joseph, yeah, I approve of him missing these games. Thomas Harper can play well, but when Kirby Joseph, he ready to come back, come playoff time, he can be healed as much as possible. Get him, Branch back there, Terrion, DJ Reed back there, Meek in the nickel position, and then your linebackers healthy now. Rodrigo will knock the rust off. Your defensive line to be fully healthy. I mean, for the most part, your defense to be ready to go. But offensively, can they solve the enigma that they're having issues with now? And the biggest enigma is how can we cover up Jared Goff? See, did y'all see that one play? I think in overtime, it was maybe 4th and 2 or 4th and 5 or 4th and 2, and they had Jameis like do a bootleg where he could have ran and picked up the first down, but he dumped it off to the running back Tracy. You can't do that with Jared Goff. And Jameis is one of the more unathletic black quarterbacks in history. You know what I'm saying? It's come here. Sorry, y'all. It's like him. It's like Byron Leftwich, then damn near him. And Jared Goff, you couldn't call that play for Jared Goff. Let's keep it real. You couldn't call that bootleg for Jared Goff, and that limits your offense. That hurts. That hurts your interior too. So if we get pressure up the middle of the field, hey, at least I can move the pocket for Jameis. At least I could put him on a boot. You know what I'm saying? With Goff, you can't put him on the Jake Plummer boot or a John Elway boot, or you can't move the pocket with Goff. And then you like, okay, but he can't slide in the pocket like Drew Brees. He can't slide in that pocket like Drew. So that becomes an issue too. So you can't slide in that pocket. You can't move him. So it's pretty much how can we dress these deficiencies up for Jared Goff? I mean, the Eagles doing the same thing with Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts can move. So that's the defense. It's just a lot of guys coming back, knocking off Russ. A lot of teams scheming up against their man defense. The pass rushers, they've been holding it down. They've been holding it down all year, thin. So they get guys back and they'll be fresher for a playoff run. But, the Giants team played very lax. They're not playing for nothing. So they can call these trick plays and they play Chicago tough. I think they played Green Bay tough. You heard it right. So, yeah, they're not playing for nothing. And the Lions for years will be spoilers and play for nothing and pull out these. The Philly special came from Detroit. The year Philly won that Super Bowl with Nick Foles, that play we did at the end of the season. So, for the most part, Dan's biggest problem is health and how do we cover up Jared Goff's deficiencies. But, like I said before, Goff got the complexion for the protection, but also they like him. And it's hard. It's easy to move on from a guy who you don't like. Look at Shedeur Sanders. Probably never really got to know the kid. They didn't like the image of the kid. They didn't like, the arrogance, and they didn't like, so much that they was willing to lose. They was willing to lose before they put the kid in the game, right? When you're liked, let me say this, when you're liked in corporate America, that goes further than what you know. You know what I'm saying? They will get rid of a guy or a gal that knows everything about the company, know how to do every job, but he or she may not, or she or he may not like fraternize or may not go out for drinks or may not be very sociable with the coworkers. They get rid of people like that. When they like you, they go through heartbreak. That's a fact. So that's the thing about it. They're not gonna grow the balls to draft a Dante Moore kid from Indiana, the kid from South Carolina. They're not gonna get a quarterback. This regime will ride and die off of Jared Goff. They won't say, let's go out there and trade a ransom for Joe Burrow. Let's try something. And I ain't saying that you should with Kyler Murray. Just try something different. But they're not gonna do that. But today it's really been a Jahmyr Gibbs show. Jahmyr Gibbs have been breaking big runs. When they block for Jahmyr Gibbs, he takes advantage of it. Simple as that. When they block for him, he take advantage of it. He makes something out of something. And ultimately, he won the game for him today. I wasn't surprised, but ultimately, the quarterback is struggling. Every year, he goes through his struggles. Last year, his struggles just happened to come in the playoff time. The year before that, it came. One second, John. The last year before that, his struggles came during Thanksgiving. We dropped that Thanksgiving game. I want to say it was either Chicago or Green Bay. Might have been Chicago. Okay, his struggles came that game. Every year, golf go through a rough stretch. All right. Um, that's just the nature of the beast, and everybody do. You know, so they've corrected his lethargicness before. And it could be injuries. He got a newborn baby. He got married, but all those play a factor. But what I will say about him is he's the last of a dying breed. He's the most immobile quarterback, or let me say this right, most least mobile quarterback in the National Football League. That's just what it is right now. When I keep saying when famous Jameis Winston is more mobile than you, that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. So, honestly, can they fix that offensive line deficiency? Let's just say this year is whatever, right? They don't win it, however they go out. Can they fix the offensive line next? And it's gonna be hard because once you think about it, a lot of y'all made a great point about keeping Seifert, and I kind of agree with it now because had you kept Seifert, you could have kept Mahogany at the right guard position, kept Glasgow, and then eventually, probably how it's going right now, you could have just transferred over to Tate Radish in center in the middle of the season. He would have had he would have had Seifert, and he would have had Mahogany got injured, or Graham Glasgow to play next to him. So ultimately, they probably should have did that because now instead of moving, like maybe keeping 80% of the offensive line intact, now in reality, really, what is it, 40 or 50% of your offensive line? Because think about it, you move Mahogany from left to right, so that's a totally different position on the blind side, right? Then you bring in a rookie and Tate Ratledge, so that's 50. That's about 50% of the offensive line. Then you kick Graham Glasgow to center. Shit, that's about, you got a 70%, 80% new offensive line. Next year, you'll get Mahogany back hopefully sometime this year. Who knows what happened with Taylor Decker? That transition needs to start already. So Decker, let's say you bring back Decker back next year. You bring back Mahogany. You bring back Penny Sewell in that right guard. What's gonna happen? I expect Tate Ratledge to kick the center next year. So do you draft a right guard? Do you put Miles Frazier's in there? And the thing about Miles Frazier, guess what? It's another LSU guy you picked up who came in injured, still not healthy. We what? 12 games in? What is that? 11, 12 games in, going on 13 or 12 games in, and he still ain't healthy. So once again, the continuous draft stream of drafting these guys, and they're just simply not healthy. Miles Frazier could have easily stepped in and maybe helped you at center or helped you at right guard, or at least be getting some reps in practice, but that's not really been the case. Everything talking about the Lions, you know, that's truly sad and pathetic is due to injuries. They've set themselves up for even life after Jameson Williams was drafting Ison Tesla. If they didn't sign him, they set themselves up in the offensive line, whether it was drafting Corey Sorsdale, whether it was drafting Miles Frazier, whether it was drafting Tate Ratledge, Christian Mahogany, Manu Giovanni. I mean, they've already thought about different things. They've already thought about, you know, different hypotheticals and prepare for the future. They have. But ultimately, injuries have derailed the Lions. That's just what it is. It's been injuries. Brad should I wouldn't say he should be on the hot seat. I would say he should be on the seat of whereas he puts a premium on durability. Whether that's, free agency, whether that's the draft, that's what it is. Come on. That's just what it is. You got to put a premium on durability, But he has a brilliant mind because he passed up on them pass rushers this year. He was right. Abdul Carter, he's been a flat out, bust. I mean, they said he's been sleeping in meetings. I don't think he recorded a sack this year, unless he got one this year. I mean, this game. So Mike Green, James Pierce, so his eye for talent is impeccable. So, and I wouldn't say he should be on a hot seat, but ultimately, what's going to make or break him is the quarterback position. That's it. That's what makes and breaks every great team. There's been great teams. Jacksonville had a team that probably should have won the Super Bowl with Jalen Ramsey and them, but they didn't have a quarterback in Blake Bortles. So ultimately, but today, it didn't make you more hopeful. But I also would say this. Discouraged? I'll say this. I just feel like they sleptwalked through the game. I think they took the Giants for granted. But what give me hope that this can be corrected is they're going to get some guys back defensively. So, but that's what give me hope. So, but, this is what teams like 2-9 New York do. They spoil the apple cart. But ultimately, they gotta get together with Goff. Goff is just so limited as a quarterback. It's crazy. He has to trust you like a rescue dog. Like a rescue dog don't even want to touch you. He trusts you. And Goff he's just not a receiver-friendly quarterback. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he makes him receiver-friendly. But ultimately, the Giants' run defense gave out today. But next week, Green Bay, they're not playing well neither. Josh Jacobs has been out. I think he was out today. They haven't played well neither. So, but the NFC is just wide open. I really think, if I'm being honest, it's Stafford's to take. That's just my opinion on it. It's Matt Stafford's division to take. It's his conference to take. If he really wants to stamp himself as a Hall of Famer, no question about it, it's his year. Also, I feel like if Baltimore get in, it's their year. I don't trust Bo Nix. Pretty sure I didn't see the Kansas City game. I'm pretty sure they cheated Indianapolis some way, somehow. But if it was ever a great year to win the Super Bowl for the Lions, it would be this year. It's not one dominant football team. It's not one dominant football team. If it was ever a year for the Lions to get it together, it's this year. Figure it out, patch it together. It's this year. He said so many things got to go right for a team to win Super Bowl. I believe the Lions can win a chip with Goff, but a lot of teams haven't won with their quarterback. Well, like Josh Allen. To be honest with you, everything ain't got to be perfect, and that may be a hindrance to a team. When I know I got a Cam Newton, I know I got a Peyton Manning, somebody like that that's very talented. For years Green Bay did this. They would go out their way not to draft receivers for Aaron Rodgers. They would draft all these defensive players, and most part, they weren't really pan out. So, yeah, when you got a great quarterback, a lot of teams neglect needs. That's a fact. They neglect receivers. Look at Buffalo. Instead of going to spend capital on the wide receiver, they getting cooked. Josh Allen about to be on IR. Damn, I thought they broke his wrist the other night. So when you got a great quarterback that can cover up shit, right? You tend to put assets everywhere else, but what do you need? And with Goff, you can't afford to do that. So you might be right. Having Goff may make this roster a lot better because they can't depend on Goff to cover up holes, whereas Baltimore can, whereas Buffalo can. You know, for years Peyton Manning could, and for years, you know, people getting on Josh Allen. I'm not Josh Allen, but Lamar Jackson, calling him overrated. You know, but in reality, you know, I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s football. But in reality, Peyton Manning had the same. He dealt with the same shit. He was losing the teams every year. Jay Fiedler, Dartmouth finest. I know y'all probably ain't never heard of Dartmouth, only when they talked about the movie Superbad. But he lost to him. He lost to Jerome Bettis when he handed him that playoff game. I believe he lost to Cincinnati. Peyton Manning was getting his ass whooped every playoff run, and it wasn't necessarily by New England at first, you know. But you know, he had super MVPs, and you know he was getting his ass beat in the playoffs. This is a fact. I grew up watching it. Remember the kicker Vanderjack called him a choke artist. Man, they packed it. Man, Vanderjack was never heard from again. Like, we don't even know what happened. What's his name? Mike Vanderjack? We never heard from him again. He called his quarterback, Peyton Manning, a choke artist. They packed him up. They packed Vanderjack up, bro. They packed him up. Never heard from him again. He missing kicks too, to be honest with you. He was living in a glass house, I believe. Come on, man. We've been here 30 minutes. He wanna still piss and sniff shit. But other than that, yeah, they want to put these jackets on these quarterbacks. You know, like, oh, he didn't. I'm telling you, a lot of these other quarterbacks, Steve Young won one funky ass Super Bowl, and that was because of Deion Sanders. But you know what? I'm not about to give a historical. No, they just conveniently leave these things out. It's even crazy that Green Bay only got two with Brett and Aaron Rodgers. It's just so hard to get one. Aaron, lucky even. Yeah, we the reason he got a Super Bowl. See, I have a really great memory when it comes to shit like this. We knocked his ass out that season. He was able to get a rest. If you remember that, we knocked him out at Ford Field. And he went in the concussion protocol. He was out like 2 weeks. And he came back, recharged, fresh. And Green Bay went on the greatest run. I never forget the run they went on. I won money every step of the way. Wild card weekend, they popped Michael Vick and the Eagles. They went down there, popped the fuck out of the Falcons in the Georgia Dome, whatever dome they was in. I think it was Georgia Dome. Then it was Jay Cutler bike game. Y'all remember that? Jay Cutler was riding that bike and Caleb Haney came in. Rodgers really choked that game. The Bears should have went to the Super Bowl. He really choked that game. So I remember that playoff run very, very well. Come on. Very well. And then obviously they beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I forget shit like that. Man, I cleaned up that run. Boy, I was hood rich. Russell cheat for KC again. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. They're not that good. So, what up, Trey? I see you. He said shout out to the Gibbs and Bates for Bell. Hey, Bates been shake that ass this year too. Thursday definitely gonna be for the season. Yeah, Green Bay ain't playing too well neither though. So we'll see. I think we should grab Winston as our backup quarterback. Also, we need somebody. Man, we need a quarterback. I want Dante Moore. You know, that kid from Indiana. I seen him play a lot. I like him a lot. Shit, give me that nigga from Ferris that played at Ole Miss. I like him too. I don't watch a lot of college football, but I like the Ole Miss quarterback. I like Indiana quarterback. I like Dante Moore. You know, he's from the city though, so maybe I'm a little biased there. That's another South Carolina quarterback is pretty good. Texas A&M quarterback a whole simp. You know, he with that Sun Lee girl. Sonny Lee, who said you gotta, you date her, you gotta take care of her friends. Look here, I better be clapping all they cheeks. I see why a lot of y'all young men don't date. These hoes out of their mind. I'm smashing you, but I'm supposed to take care of your friend. Man, if you don't get out of my face. And they all smashing somebody who wouldn't even help, who wouldn't even come put air in their tire. That's crazy, man, where we live in. But I like Winston, though. I just live in Alabama. Famous Jameis is the real deal. It's time to start. Well, Hendon Hooker was supposed to be that guy. He just was incapable of playing quarterback. I don't understand what's up with JMO and Tesla. It's I was blaming John Morton. It's Jared Goff. If Jared Goff don't trust you, if Metro, what's that say? If Metro don't trust you, I'ma shoot you. That's a fucking fact for them. If Jared Goff don't trust you, I feel like my neighbor's been gone for like 2 days. I walked their dog yesterday. Oh no, they back. I'm like, cause I walked them yesterday. I didn't know if they came back yet. I was gonna ask if they wanted to walk the end. I know they're barking all day. Because, bro, no Laporta in the day. Well, I say this. Without them having Laporta, remember when Brock Wright was open for that 4th down and Goff threw it to Amon-Ra? If that was Laporta, he'd hit him for that touchdown for sure. But yeah, that's all I had, man. I might do a video dedicated to them. Lions are going to be cooked when it comes to Green Bay. I don't know. Green Bay, they ain't look too good neither. And we at the crib, so we'll see. But the Lions don't look too good neither. But I appreciate y'all. Peace.